I mentioned the polar drafting setting earlier on, and what we're going to do now is set the polar setting so that we can use polar in the drawing. Now you'll notice I've deliberately left ortho switched on, and you'll see why. When I go down to polar on the status bar and switch polar on, ortho automatically turns off. The reason for that being is because if you've got polar set to the default settings of 90 degrees, that means that you can draw horizontally and vertically anyway. So ortho turns off automatically for you. You cannot run ortho and polar at the same time. They kind of clash, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, let's go up to the line command like we've been doing before, and I'm going to come into the drawing area, and it's prompting me to specify the first point of my line. So if I click, say, over here and drag horizontally, can you see that 0 degrees come up and the polar come up on the crosshair because of the dynamic input being switched on? So I'm dragging to the right horizontally, which is 0 degrees in AutoCAD. And as you can see, I can drag, put a distance in, say 5, enter, and as you can see now, that's drawn a horizontal line at the 5 length. However, as I drag this way, look, I can still draw freehand. So I can draw like so anywhere I want, but as soon as I hit an increment of 90 degrees, it kicks in. There's 270 going vertically downwards. So if I come down the 270 line, down the polar tracking line, put in a distance of say 3 and enter, I know that that is exactly vertical. Again, if I lock in on the horizontal, dragging to the left, you can see there, look, 180 degrees to the left, the opposite of 0 degrees. As I come along there, put 5 in again like I did for the top horizontal line and press enter, and I know that that's exactly horizontal. Now the nice thing about the line command, I can right click now and I can close back to the starting point, and there's a rectangle. Okay, that's formed of individual lines. It's not a polyline. A polyline would form an actual rectangle that would be one object, but you can see how accurate I can be using that polar. If I right click on polar, you'll see that there's various default angles that I can set it to. So let's use 45 now. I'll draw over here on the right now, and what I'll do, I'll right click, recent input, line. Now if I draw a line again, click and drag horizontally, like so, I'm going to make it 2.5 this time, 2.5 long. So I type that in the box there, press enter, that's 2.5 long. As I come down though, look, I can go horizontal, or if I drag, look, as I come round the angle, it locks into 45 degrees. So what I'll do there is I'll make that 1.5 long, type it in the box and press enter, and then if I come down to the opposing 45 degrees, which is actually 135 on the readout, or 225 on the polar, if I come down there and put 1.5 in there, like so, I know that they are exactly accurate. So if I go horizontally here, 2.5, like I did on the upper horizontal line, and then do a right click and a close again, I've got an exact symbol shape. So you can see how useful that polar tracking is. You can set it to any angle you want. If I right click over polar and go to settings, it doesn't have to be a known increment angle. I can go here, tick additional angles and click on new and add any angle I want. Now I don't normally use obscure angles. I must admit most of the time I use the standard increments. But if you needed an exact angle, you could use it. I'll just cancel that now for the moment. So you can see there how polar tracking is extremely useful. And as we move into object snap tracking and object snaps and so on, you'll see how even more useful it can be as we work through these drafting settings.